AI stacks for agentic workflows. And hopefully here are the takeaways that you'll be getting. Some best practices for your stack if you want to create one at home. Governance that executes, so it allows you to do different tasks safely. Identify controls that make automation for app development and business operation trustworthy. So that's what I use it for a lot. My goal is to create some passive income. I'm trying to get to 10K. So I use it to create websites, applications, and run business operations. In the stack. So essentially a stack is basically a bunch of different AI tools all meshed together to perform whatever you want to point it at. So I run the headless Mac that's always reachable. Gives you your agents their own computer so they can access the internet, they can use vision, all that good stuff. 24/7, always on. So I got these little cute little AI generated images to kind of help us move along.
So just to ask,
yeah,
all three computers are different agents, as you said. So like one's chat, one's agent, one's AI stack.
So they're all different AI stacks.
Okay.
Do any of you guys know the difference between a chat, an agent, and an AI stack? Or a chat and an agent?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So 20% of the world has used chats. That's like 80% haven't even gone on to chatgpt.com and asked a question, which is kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. 5% of those people actually have a ChatGPT account with some tokens that they can actually use. So like 5% of the world is maybe a power user with the chat. 1% are using agents. And then like 1% of that are using AI stacks. So chats give you answers, you do all the actions. So you say, hey, how do I program this? And then you go and program it. It forgets when you close the tab. It lives and dies with one chat window. There's no rules it must obey. Now, some of these things, there's gray areas. Maybe yours does. Maybe you have customized it a little bit. But for the general purpose, that's how you can kind of think of it.
Yeah, I know like the big problem is it forgets.
Yes, forgetting is a big, big issue. And so one of the main things is that this is hopefully going to prevent that from being an issue for anything that you want to do. So an agent is basically a pilot that you put into a fighter jet. So now it has buttons, it can fly, it can shoot missiles, right? It can do all these things that it can operate. It can plan, it uses tools, and it takes actions. It remembers within one task. It completes a goal, and then it ends. The rules live in the prompt, and then it can do some task orchestration as well. So for your agents, the majority of them get an agent.md with rules and governance, a soul MD, user MD, memory MD, tools, skills, projects, and heartbeats.
And those are actual things?
These are files that go with each agent.
All right.
And you can customize these. And they're basically, you can think of them like text files, but even lighter because they're markdown files. So they get an identity. Maybe you have one that's a researcher. Maybe you have one that's a programmer. Maybe you have one that's audits and tests things. So they have different roles and different skills that you can assign to them. Standard operating procedures as well. The different tools that they can use. And so an agent is always got that identity. They have a profile that's always on. Identities and boundaries will travel with the agents, and each agent owns one clear job. So,
Agent Smith.
Yeah, Agent Smith. There you go. So my goal was when as soon as agents came out, I was probably playing around with it in November, December, and I was building without even knowing it. I was building OpenClaw, and then somebody dropped OpenClaw, and I was like, okay, this is way better than what I was building. I can't do that. And then I was building this other orchestration tool, and then somebody dropped it, paperclip, and so okay, now I'm on to the other things. And so what I found is like somebody's probably building the tool that you're thinking about building, and what's going to be unique is how you use other people's tools and put them together and build workflows essentially with those tools. So you can think of an AI stack as a whole fleet that's coordinated now. So you got a pilot, no no jet, and then you got a jet fighter with the pilot, and then now you have a bunch of jet fighters, a platform for them to launch from, and this has many agents, all with one job, shared memory across all of them, runs unattended 24/7 or on a schedule, so you can just have it continuously doing workflow for you all the time. The rules enforced in the code, so you don't have to hope for them. There's multi-agent orchestration, policies and procedures, and results can be audited and verified. So you get one dedicated machine that runs a custom AI stack. And so you can build these for different purposes that you are interested in building them for. The goal is, though, that it remembers your business, remembers who you are, what your objectives are, and why whatever you're doing. And it's kind of like Tamagotchi. So if you guys remember the toy from the 90s, right? You had to feed it, you had to take it for walks, you had to nurture it. The sooner that you guys build one of these, the more it's going to grow with you and with your company or with your projects, and it'll be better than the guy who starts next year, right? Because you'll be 1 year. It's like raising a toddler. The earlier that you start teaching them how to do things, the better they're going to get. So they follow rules, they work while you're asleep, capabilities that grow with you and improve over time. And then here's some of the different capabilities. So I kind of look at it like a house with different levels to each of these things, all networked together, whether they're tools or memories or systems or cloud services. They share the evidence and they keep the decisions independent, which is a big deal. Every agent follows the same operating rules, so you don't have issues with exposures or leaks of credentials, things like that. You can run them in loops where they plan, they act, they verify, they learn, and then they repeat, so they get better over time. The more you run them, the better the outcomes will be. And every action ends with some proof, and there's safeguards that stay independent. So the big thing right here is the brain, the memory. There's a bunch of different memory systems and tools that you can use, and I heard you talking about, it forgets certain things, or it has different, it says something that's factually untrue. Well, it can hallucinate, but it can also give you stale information. Or like you can make a decision and say like, hey, we're going with option B, and that's the way it's going to be. And then you open another one and you start talking, and it's talking about option A, and it's leading you down this dead end. And you're like, well, what are we doing? I thought we were doing option B. And it's like, oh yeah, I didn't know about that. So the goal is to keep everybody on the same page, but also allow them to have specialized knowledge, because you don't want everybody just to be the same mind. Because then you lose the, it would be like having a company where everybody is just the same mind. You want people to understand different aspects of it. So the main tool is OpenBrain. OpenBrain is something that you can incorporate into your stack. So you could get a Mac Mini today, you can run a harness like Hermes, right? You open up Claude Code and you say, hey, install Hermes. And then you say, hey, install OpenBrain. And it'll just start putting these things together. You prompt it a little bit to explain how you want it to be hooked up and integrated. Different rules, and you can get different scenarios and how it wants to do. But basically, OpenBrain is a bulletin board where all the agents can post their knowledge, and then you can go and search that information and be able to...
So basically summarize what you just said,
yeah,
because that's how OpenBrain works. You can install, let's say, OpenClaw on one of these computers, and then connect them all together using OpenBrain.
So you don't need to connect all of them together. You could connect different computers together.
But I meant they communicate. That's what I meant by connected.
The computers?
Yeah.
Mine actually do.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't need to.
Okay.
So because I built the one main stack.
Yeah.
And then I have an installer program that installs it again on another computer. But every time I make an improvement, I have to update the installer, and then I have to reinstall. And so I made it so that I can kind of push some of these configurations or settings in a different way, so that it kind of just pushes and pulls from a repo.
OpenAI keeps updating everything.
OpenBrain allows everybody just to post their knowledge publicly.
Okay.
So you can kind of think of it like a blockchain, right? Where now everybody can kind of pull from it if they need to access something. Or before they start a task, they're going to say, hey, let me go check OpenBrain and see what other agents have posted about this.
Okay.
you can think of it like a library, where all the knowledge gets shared there and you can access it. Once you share it once, the whole team knows it and understands it. So you're turning now your tools into a system. The insights will compound and get better as you improve the knowledge and the agents learn. It's accessible, so it's not a pool. It's a pool. It's not pushed. Because if you push everything, then you kind of break your system. The agents are actually not connected directly to OpenBrain, by the way. They have to go access it. They have to go to the library, exactly. Then the other tool that is really great for memory is Code Graph. So this makes your code indexable, kind of like you can think of it like Google. So it can understand where different pieces of your code are and go find them. Instead of reading the whole repo and wasting all these tokens, it can identify exactly what it needs to find immediately. And then it saves you time, it saves you money, and it helps to understand like the blast radius of your codes before you push and deploy them. This one is LLM Wiki. This is like a Carpathy model. Basically now every agent has their private textbook with notes, and it's accessible again, but these answers are the trusted answers that you have given to your system. So for you, if you were to have one of this deployed on your stack, the agents wouldn't get confused or get stale, outdated information. Once you make a decision, it's locked in, and then they can understand it from there.
This is like the private library just for that agent?
Yes.
As opposed to just the knowledge that they've curated?
Correct. It stops the agent from guessing. You get consistent, opinionated answers. So now it's like working with a human where it's like, no, the design needs to be like this because that's what we've decided on, and I know what I'm talking about. The other one is this holographic recall. So this is searchable memories of past conversations and observations. It surfaces what you said about previous topics. Agents actual long-term memory without mess. So it's not like a whole chat log, right? It's just like the concise, important facts that is stored. So whatever previous decision is able to persist, this is where you keep your facts. So, right, is the sky blue? Right? Bats are mammals. Bats are birds. No, that's not true. And then Omega is the personal scratchpad. So you can think of it kind of like a diary, right? Where they don't share this. This is just theirs. They don't have this accessible to other agents. And this also keeps them kind of unique and more personable, and that knowledge is grounded and specialized. So it remembers across sessions, stores decisions, lessons, and your preferences, recalls relevant prior context before a task, which is a big deal, so that it doesn't just start your task and start doing things. It's grounded. It links related memories and briefs a fresh session. So you can start with a brand new chat without having to copy the chat log from the previous agent and paste it in each time. It'll already have that shared in there. So you can think of it kind of like a private knowledge source.
So that's Omega's library you install? Is that something you...
So all of these, you can basically talk to your chat, your Claude Code, or I use Hermes Agent. Hermes Agent is basically a harness, kind of like OpenClaw. So the difference between the agent is, right, the agent stops, it turns off. If you're not doing something, if you're not constantly there at the computer prompting it, it's not going to do anything. OpenClaw, you can basically set cron jobs, right, which is like a timed, every 30 minutes, evaluate my system, write a brand new prompt from whatever we need to get done, look at the goal, the mission, and then give yourself that prompt and run it. So essentially, it's an agent that's always on, and it has a runtime, and it's able to access all these different tools and work and collaborate and have these things. So you can just say, hey, install Omega into our stack, and then a few prompts about how is it connected, what's it do, how's the information flow? Because one of the things that I needed to kind of understand is how are we connected? And so I have this visualizer kind of built here to help me. And plus, my students were asking me, what are you building, Mr. Dawson? And I was like, it's a thing. But these are supposed to glow. I gotta maybe refresh it. But these show you exactly how the information is flowing down here and what each wire means. And you can see OpenBrain, it doesn't connect directly to the Hermes agent. It bypasses it through an MCP, which is kind of like a API for agents. So all the agents work through the stack. They don't work around it. Everything goes through this process like a digestive system, inputs and outputs. And then where it really starts to get unlocked is when you give it hands. So you start plugging in API keys, right? You got an API for Gmail, you got an API for Facebook, you got an API for Cloudflare, for GitHub, for all these different tools that you probably use on the daily. You can get your API keys, store them in a .env file inside of Hermes, where all of your secret keys exist. But you do have risks of exposure events, so if you don't have some skills around how to handle these keys, it can get a little tricky and get a little scary, maybe some security risks. So that's why it's very important to have the memory in there and your governance rules. So I have something where if it ever has an exposure event, it runs through a procedure to create a guardrail to prevent that from ever happening. So every time an exposure event happens, it makes it less likely for me to have one. And then I just got to go in there and refresh it and create another one and replace it. Then the other ones are MCPs. So a lot of companies now are making MCPs for their tools, which is really cool stuff. It's essentially a smart version of an API key. And you could probably understand it in a few different ways and more in depth, but you can just think of it simply like an AI API key, where they're able to access only the tools that they need. They can combine different tools. So maybe a MCP requires a few different API keys, and it can basically create a workflow around these API keys to access things, to produce information. And then your other one is computer use. So again, I have a good understanding of how to build things, how to put things together, and how things need to work and function and operate. I don't have a great programming clarity and fine technical details in that. Even a lot of these tools have some menus that I don't feel like spending a week learning where the menus are. So a lot of the times it'll report back, here's your human blockers, you need to go to this website, create this, open that up, and do this, and build this account. And I'll say, hey, give me I have a skill for Codex, human blocker skill, where it gives me a prompt that I can give to Codex. It'll use computer use, it'll use all the tools, and it'll actually go and do that thing for me on my computer screen, and I'll come back and it'll be done. So it'll remove a human blocker from the system. And the other thing that I use that's really great for your API keys is I don't store my API keys as raw values on the computer. I store them in 1Password, and 1Password has a CLI that you can hook up to your agent, and so it'll read a variable, and it'll access the vault where the secrets are stored and be able to retrieve them. The secrets never get revealed; they get wrapped, but they'll be able to access them so that they're not exposed.
So basically, the way you protect your keys is using that.
Yes, 1Password, and
the MCP is going to help as well because you're able to access. The AI will access the MCP, and then it has the access, so it never actually sees the keys. Another way I've seen is you'll often have a CLI command that it's able to run the command, but it never sees the secrets. It's only accessing it as if you were. Like I've had it log into Azure and GitHub and AWS and do all the other CLI commands, but it has no idea what the credentials are.
And you can build your own MCPs too,
Yeah.
for custom workflows, whatever different custom workflows you want. One of the last things is like budgeting, right? If you don't do this, you start burning tokens really, really quickly. So you want to make sure you have different lanes for big jobs, like programming. Maybe you were a little bit more ready to use some tokens and spend a little bit more money to get a quality result. Little calls and accessing memory and things like that. You can use, depending on your system that you're using, maybe a local model, so it doesn't even use any tokens. in December, Apple's going to release, or October maybe, Apple's going to release their next M5 and maybe M7. They might skip M6 Max. So that's going to be a real big game changer. Where you're going to be able to run a lot of local models, very big local models, on your system locally. And then one of your ways that you make sure everything is kind of up and protected is that you create these little watchdogs that always look for every little system. They check to make sure, I have one for my Telegram, because I use Telegram to talk to Hermes. And if Telegram ever goes down, it detects it every 5 minutes. It looks to see that connection is still good, and it self-repairs it. So you can build these for whatever kind of system that you want to make sure is very robust. And then this is your final result, right? Where you got tools, code, data, systems, interfaces, orchestration, memory, knowledge, and execution, all kind of intertwined, intermeshed, different layers, intersecting, however you build them. And it's one custom operating system on a little box. And the beautiful thing is that I've built this little installer here. So what this does is it takes that system, it runs it through a few different little steps to download all these tools, to plug it in the way that I have configured. So the first time building this, it took me 3-4 months to build. The second time I built the second one, it took me 3 weeks using that installer. And then the last one, it was under 3 days. It was closer to 3 hours. So now it's kind of nicely tight packaged way to be able to replicate the core system, not the personalities, not the specialty information, but just that. And then
that installer is for Mac, like for Mac.
For Mac.
It's not for, because you can,
I'd have to figure out a whole way to.
Mac Mini, it can just be on a VM, right? You can have 50 VMs.
So I don't like the VMs. Like there was one website, Orgo, and then there's Hostinger. I feel like for the price, they're really slow. Like they're giving you 8 gigs of memory for like a lot of money. Where I could just buy a Mac Mini, and you're getting. I mean, this one only has 16, but like the crazy thing is, these Mac Minis, the used ones, are more expensive than the new ones.
Yeah, because everyone's trying to buy them.
Yeah, because they want it right now. But I feel like they're more stable. They're reachable. I was getting a lot of issues with it, and the lag was crazy. And I felt like it wasn't like I was worried it was going to break, and then I'd have to start all over. But even some of them they do now. If you want to get started pretty quickly, they have like little one-click installs, where like you can just install a Hermes agent to like just kind of quickly get you set up. But here's like use cases that you could use it for. Data processing, marketing, lead generation, content generation. Content generation is a big one right now. You've probably seen all the slop that's out there. A lot of slop. Depending on, have you noticed the different qualities of slop though?
Yeah.
Right. There's some real slop, but then there's some things that you're like, okay, hey, I'm going to learn about Napoleon, and this is kind of all right, and it runs through history, and so like depending on how you set this up, you would hopefully generate quality AI content and not just slop. And then application development again is another big one that I will use it for. So right now, the second one that I have is running my buddy's Airbnbs. So he has like 11 Airbnbs, and his issue was that he can't add more Airbnbs because he spends so much time messaging, and so he's kind of capped and not able to scale. And I was like, well, you could build this to handle all your messaging, because a lot of it's like repetitive, and the code is this, and the lockbox, and make sure when you check out you clean whatever and take the trash out, whatever the repetitive things are. And you just go to your messages, copy it, paste it in there. Now it knows how to respond and be like you. And then this is my mortgage guy, and he's using it to create virtual products or financial products, annuities and insurance and things like that, and create a new pipeline to go high level, and basically automating his marketing and capturing,
The virtual sales.
his virtual sales team. So those are the Mac Minis. Excuse the ugly wiring.
So each one is its own stack, you said,
Yes.
and then each one has multiple agents and stuff. But
Yes.
maybe you touched on it, but where do you define the ultimate goal? 'Cause
So
each agent has its own goal, right? So where's the ultimate goal? How do they?
So it would be over whatever your use case is. So I use it for developing websites.
Yeah.
So I was able to build, I don't know, 4 or 5 websites over the summer. I've taken the summer and I'm just like dedicated all day, every day to building this stuff. I spend probably, let's think, 500 a month on tokens, just on the subscriptions.
Expensive.
Yeah, well, I got one for, and it's going to be more once my XAI trial runs out. Because Grok is really the best one to run with Hermes, and this is my Hermes agent right here. So like, you just call it by writing Hermes, and there's other ones. I've heard a lot about Goose AI. I haven't checked it out, but at the end of the day, like you got to get your stack set up, and then kind of just ride with it. Like, who knows? I haven't checked this in a couple weeks. All of the things, all the tools that I'm talking about could be way out of date, and but they work. So. It gets me good results. So this is Hermes agent. It can send and communicate to my X codex. So it can communicate to this agent. It can also communicate to the Claude Code. And so some of the things that I built is like a domain stand-up system, where I can take a demo project, because it can create these demo websites really quickly. A few prompts and you got it. It looks nice. But then getting it on the domain, linking it up to the web hosting, getting it hooked up with like Google Analytics and Google Search Console and go high level, that takes a couple weeks, even if you're vibe coding. And so I've realized, hey, I'm going to be doing this for every single project. I need to build something where I can one-shot it. Get my PRDs, my project requirement documents, where it has all the information in it that I need, and then it can use that to fill in all the questions and answer all those things to plug in the system correctly.
And proceduralize it.
Yes. Yeah. So now I can, where it might take a few weeks, I can do it in a few prompts to stand them up. And then, sky's the limit really with.
I think what he's asking is, are all 3 Mac Minis talking to each other as one cluster, or are they independent? You're just addressing.
I would do them independently. The only reason that mine do is because when I make changes on here, then I have to open up the other Mac and do all the same changes, and it's just kind of frustrating. So I have it to just have a repo where it can push and pull, and I can just say like, go get that latest change, and then boop, it pulls it.
So when you do OpenClaw, does that still take tokens? I was always thinking about doing something like this.
OpenClaw does not take tokens. You can run it all locally, but I would jump to Hermes, honestly, because OpenClaw is not as stable. It can crash a lot. It's not as robust. Hermes is another open source harness that it just seems like.
Does it cost money to run?
No, none of them cost any money. You're only paying for tokens.
Yeah, I don't want to pay for tokens.
So if you run it, especially if you get a really good machine, if you have your supercomputer, right? That's what I would be like. Wow, I would just set it up on there and run all of those tokens locally through like a Olama, because it does have access to. Because like a lot of the local stuff, the small cheap stuff, I run it locally instead of doing calls and wasting tokens. But
the only reason that you're connecting it to like the Claude code and like ChatGPT is because you want to give it access to those models.
Those agents are specialized, and I'm model agnostic. I'll use whatever the best model is. And so like right now, Codex is a beast, and its computer use is a beast for getting around some of the technical things that I don't know how to do, and just giving it computer use, and you just watch it clicking on the menus and going and setting up servers and configuring things and DNS, and I don't know what it's doing, but then it starts working, and I'm like, great, that was awesome. This is how the agents are all connected together. So I have anti-gravity that I haven't connected to the system.
But you don't have to go to the cloud. You don't have to use those cloud models that you're paying for tokens.
No, for Codex you would, and for Claude Code you would, just because those are from the models.
Right, but I mean, say he was asking, you can run this all with just your local
Yes.
hardware.
You wouldn't be able to use Claude Code or Codex, but you could get Goose and run it locally for the LLM.
There are open source models.
There are open source agents, models, all the different open source, but
Do they run a scale?
Codex and Claude Code are going to be the best two out. And so like I look at Hermes as like my point guard, right? It handles my whole system. It creates the dashboard. It is the communicator between all the agents. It knows me best. And then when I need to program something, Codex. If I need something designed, I can use Claude Code. But here's the different agents and then how they're connected to the system. So they all connect to OpenBrain. They all connect to CodeGraph, Obsidian Bolt, and they all are reachable through cloud MCPs in different ways. Let's see if this works now. Yeah, so and then you can see like how they're connected and wired together. And if I notice something that's like not supposed to be that way, I can say, hey, why is that like that? But this was kind of a game changer for me to be able to just visualize it and understand. And like, I didn't program any of this. This is all vibed.
Your agent built the dashboard?
Built the dashboard. I teach robotics. I don't teach the programming. I was terrified. We had a mentor who was doing all the programming for us, and then he left, and I was like, oh shit, what are we gonna do? He left, thank God, the year before the agents came out. And so we used a cursor to program and I vibe coded our robot this year. And again, like I can read code, like I'm not a complete noob, but like I'm not. If you sit me down in front of a notepad and say code a program, no internet access, I'm gonna not do it. Like it's not gonna happen.
I don't think there's a programmer alive that could do that. At least nowadays.
Where it starts to get really crazy and awesome though, and where I haven't done it yet because I have used it, but then it was just a little bit too much and creating a lot of waste and mess, and so I had to kind of shut it down, is when you hook up Paperclip and also Posters. So Posters is like social media, so now I can have all your social media accounts, but Paperclip is what I was building, and then they dropped it for free, and now it's an open source thing, and like, okay, now I'm going to quit and building that. So what this is basically an AI company. And so you can have your little org chart here, and so every company starts with a CEO, and you can pick the agent. So this could be Hermes, or this could be Claude Code, or this could be Codex, any agent that you want it to be. And then they all work in, let's see, they have a dashboard here, or a Kanban board. So all of the different backlogs, their to-dos, they're in progress, they will assign themselves tasks, read those tasks, execute those tasks, and progress them down to done. But what I found is you don't want to put these for like each of your individual projects. What I think you would want to do them for is like you would have a web development company, or you'd have an app development company, or you'd have a social media company, and so you would specialize the work, not the project, because then you can just have it interface with all of your different projects and handle that data the same way instead of building all of those different workflows per company. And you can create new issues here and assign it to different agents to execute. One of the first assignments is that you assign your CEO to hire a CTO, and then they hire the CTO. And all of these agents in here have a let's see, they have a they have a skills library in here where you can see all their skills. They have the costs dashboard so you can manage their costs, but they all have an identity, if I can find what their identity is. So they have a configuration. it's somewhere in there. It says, hey, like I'm the CEO. My target is this. You can give it a goal. So maybe like you say, hey, my goal is make $500 this month. Go, and it'll target that.
Go do crime.
Make $1 million. Make $1 million. And so like this is the next thing that I gotta kind of unlock for this. I spent so much damn time building all that. But yeah, that is the stack. And if any of you guys have questions about what tools you should use, I'm available. I kind of really enjoy doing it. So if you do have questions, you can let me know and I can help you figure it out. And I would definitely encourage everybody to grab a Mac Mini. Well, if you got time, you can wait until the new ones come out. But like,
They're crazy expensive.
I remember when they weren't. They were like really good for certain like.
oh, they're amazing for $1,000.
Which is worse, trying to get a hold of one of those or trying to get a hold of the GPU?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible. Oh man, when the new M5, like, I think I'm gonna get one of the Mac Studios. Just get a big boy. Just YOLO.
I was just looking at the Raspberry Pi to use that as an alternative. Even buying like the
It's around the
Pi,
same-
it's like $200
Yeah.
to $300 now for a Raspberry. It used to be only $40 for a
Mhm.
Raspberry Pi. That's gone up in
I
price
have
too.
4 and a 5 at home. They're like gold now.
Yeah,
I was like, hey, you want to sell your pie? I was like, how do you even know I had a pie?
you could use those for it. How much memory they got? I think they got like 8.
There's a 246 or 248 and 16.
Yeah, like so I'm kind of a super user. So my
And AI hats too, where you can plop some extra horsepower on them.
if Macs could, that would be great.
I
But
think value-wise, if you can get a good
'Cause
Mac
you-
Mini,
the Macs you're locked in.
yeah.
Once you get it, you're locked in. Like this
I
is
just found a Mac Mini.
16 gigs, and I it starts throttling when I start using it. But again, it depends on how much you're pushing and how, like, if you're a power user, I would get at least a 24.
What was your favorite part of setting it up?
Well, I really like to learn about it and tinkering. Yeah, I get fixated on the infrastructure and kind of like making it the ultimate system and like optimizing. Like, hey, bro, you gotta eventually start pointing this at something and start generating some income. So like, a few of these projects are not all the way done, but like, so like this was my first one just to prove that I could do a thing with all just vibe codes. And this is just like a very simple like e-commerce affiliate marketing template. So, and one of my goals was to like build the template so that it's there, and then I can just apply it to this, apply it to that, apply it to this, copy paste. So like this is just like me when I shop for kitchen supplies on Amazon. I'm like, is this gonna kill me? And then I have to look through like 20 different products and be like researching about, is this gonna kill me? And so like this just finds all these products that don't have PFAS in the kitchen supplies.
I like cancer.
And it basically just puts it there, and then all it is just an Amazon affiliate link.
Nice.
That's it. Pretty simple. And then my other one is like a rank and rent model. So I was like, okay, let me just do like some landscaping. There's this new thing with the ordinance about like clearing your brush so that you have to you might get in trouble with a warning or whatever. And so it's got a lot of that language about like the law and whatever, so like SEO. But this is hooked up with Go High Level. So this phone number actually has like an AI answering thing now. But this form is all connected to Go High Level, so it logs every lead that's generated. And the plan is just to start marketing it, getting it going a little bit. I got somebody over in Thousand Oaks that I'm hooking up with all these leads for free, and then eventually when it starts generating money,